Dayton, Tennessee, July 10th, 1925. It was the day a high school biology teacher named John Thomas Scopes went on trial for teaching Darwin's theory of evolution in a public school classroom. Hundreds streamed into the Ray County courthouse. Some came to stand for the evolutionist perspective of teaching, while others came to stand by the creationist. Evolution was about to be put on trial with an odd cast of characters. An organization advocating tolerance for debate and dispute. A team of local boosters trying to put their small town on the map, and a judge who believed he'd been chosen by God. In the center of it all, two of America's most colorful and controversial men. During the 8-day trial, they would fight an epic battle that pitted long-held pious beliefs against the rise of scientific thinking as the foundation of public education. Along with it, the successes, failures, and consequences that acted as a domino effect towards the decline of fundamentalism in American culture, as well as the rise of modern thinking and innovations. A duel over science and religion, faith and agnosticism, the book of Darwin and the book of Genesis, the duel that created the Scopes trial, the duel that created the trial of the century.
But for me, I'm content with the blessed Bible plan, and you can't make a monkey out of me.
Everyone sensed that a war on evolution in schools was imminent, but before there was even a single debate about the theory of evolution itself, there was a man named Charles Darwin and his controversial book of theories, The Origin of Species.
If you're a member of the general public, you have heard dozens of times in your life that there's something wrong with the theory of evolution, that it's a myth, or it's just a theory, meaning that it's mere speculation. And if that's all that you've heard, it's fair to be skeptical about it.
However, unlike other debates on evolution, the Scopes trial focused on the teachings of the theory in public schools and took place during the melting pot of a moral crisis. Reform movements such as Prohibition prompted fundamentalists to take change a step further in fear of evolutionist ideas invading education, starting out with passing the Butler Act. Introduced by John Butler, the act outlawed the teachings of evolution in Tennessee public schools. It stated that any theory that denies the divine creation of man and teaches instead that man is descended from a lower order of animals is prohibited. The act garnered the attention of the American Civil Liberty Union, a budding organization looking for a teacher to challenge the constitutionality of the act.
What happened was the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, wanted to challenge the Butler Act in Tennessee.
The ACLU did not anticipate the controversy and infamy their plan would create.
Monkey business down in Tennessee. My Lulu made me fall, I'm monkey after all.
It all began here, in small Dayton, Tennessee, over cokes and phosphates, the decision to create the trial of the century. George Rapelier, a man in charge of fixing Dayton's failing economy, and several Dayton businessmen sat down at Robinson's local drugstore and discussed the possibilities of boosting Dayton's economy while serving the ACLU to challenge the Butler Act. The conspirators believed that Scopes was the perfect candidate.
ACLU sought out John Scopes. They approached Scopes, they paid him, they wanted him to challenge the law.
He agreed to teach evolution and was indicted for breaking the Butler Law on May 25, 1925. As Scopes awaited trial, hundreds were drawn to the confrontation immediately.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of people came into town, some from just the outlying community, others from far away, relatively speaking. Hundreds of reporters who came, as many as 200 reporters from all the major news organizations in this country, and some from overseas. In addition to that, you had, let's say, preachers of all sorts, from fundamentalists who were preaching nothing but the Bible and creation is the way to go, to atheists who were preaching the Bible's bunk and you can't believe in anything like that. They were all here in the mix trying to get their points across.
To prosecute Scopes was three-time Democratic presidential nominee William Jennings Bryan. A self-proclaimed creationist and fundamentalist, Bryan argued that the most dangerous of Darwin's theory was its intrusion in the teachings of the public school system. On the opposite side of the ring was famous defense lawyer Clarence Darrow. An open agnostic, Darrow once said about the teaching of creationism in public schools, "The schools of the state were established to teach science, not religion." The verdict, however, was in neither of their hands. Judge Ralston invited a 4-year-old boy to pick names out of a hat, so the jury selection would be as random as possible. The fate of John Scopes lay in the hands of 6 Baptists, 4 Methodists, 1 disciple of Christ, and 1 single non-churchgoer. However, the trial was more of a theological contest and a trial on the veracity of modern science regarding the creation-evolution debate, as opposed to a trial that would determine if the defendant was guilty. It was no surprise that Scopes was found guilty. He was fined $100 and, in response, he said, "Your Honor, I feel that I have been convicted of violating an unjust statute. I will continue in the future, as I have in the past, to oppose this law in any way I can. The fine is unjust." Bryan had won the case, but when he spoke to the crowd, he sounded less than triumphant. "Someday," he told them, "this issue will be settled right." What began as a thrilling experiment on the lawfulness of an act turned into the nation's personal business. Seemingly, the verdict touched everyone's hearts, and not in a positive way for all. Evolutionists were angered that the law was not overturned, and creationists, although having won the Scopes trial, were being discriminated against by peers.
Dayton was ridiculed as being backward and ignorant and anti-intellectual, which was far from the truth.
This led to the shunning of Tennessee, and ultimately brought into daylight similar dilemmas other states were facing. Because of this, the Scopes trial became known as the first shot in an ongoing battle in the debate on whether evolution should be taught in public schools. One success of the trial was that it caused society to divide, allowing people to learn the ideals of both sides of the debate. Due to the trial's international broadcasts, people grew aware and no longer accepted prior common knowledge of the time, which led people to use scientific thinking. For creationists, the win of the trial was a success itself. Until 1967, when the Butler Act was repealed, creationism was the only method taught in Tennessee public schools. Dayton's economy flourished, and Bryan College, a Christian institution, was built there in honor of William Jennings Bryan. For evolutionists, the trial showed the Butler Act's unlawfulness. Because of the efforts of Scopes and the defense team, other states were encouraged to challenge the emergence of similar laws.
Eventually, the laws like the Butler Act were either repealed or overturned.
A play and film about the trial entitled Inherit the Wind brought it into pop culture, impacting the generations who were not alive to see it. However, for creationists, the film was a complete failure. Its portrayal of the Scopes trial's eccentric characters were completely inaccurate. But the largest failure to have come out of the Scopes trial was its inability to reach a compromise that satisfied both opposing sides, which led to an ongoing debate rather than diplomacy. Even after more than 85 years and approximately 20 similar court cases, the Scopes trial still stays fresh in the nation's mind. Concern on whether evolution or a new form of scientific theology called intelligent design should be taught in schools arose in the summer of 2005 when 11 parents sued Dover Area School District in York, Pennsylvania for a biology class policy that requires students to learn from a textbook that teaches the creationism theory of intelligent design. The judge ruled the ID policy as a violation of the Establishment Clause, and it was soon removed from the district. In the end, the debate that ended the reign of fundamentalism in America is still open to discussion. The decline of fundamentalism gave room for science to flourish, making the Cold War and mass production of technology possible. Although American fundamentalism disappeared after the trial, the question on whether which truth, creation or evolution, should be taught in schools is still being asked today. In 1925 Dayton, someone in power decided that creationism should be taught in schools. In 2005 Dover, evolution. The status of the debate is subject to change until either theory is proven right or wrong.
We're still having that discussion today for many of the same reasons.
Even though the Butler Act and the Scopes trial was 85, 86 years ago, we still have the same similar issues in front of us.
I would just hope that the outcome of the debate is that people understand the idea better than they have before.
The answer to this issue does not lie in textbooks, holy books, teachers or lawyers, judges or juries. The answer to the debate on whether God or Darwin should be taught in schools lies in no one further than ourselves.